In a small, quiet village in rural India, a 2-year-old boy was playing in the courtyard of his family's home when his parents suddenly heard him scream. It was not the typical cry of a toddler who had fallen and scraped his knee. It was a scream of pure, piercing terror. They rushed outside and were met with a sight that is every parent's most profound and primal nightmare. Their tiny son was entangled with one of the deadliest snakes on earth, a venomous Indian cobra. But what they witnessed in the next few seconds was so bizarre, so completely unbelievable, it would turn a terrifying, unfolding tragedy into a baffling global medical mystery. This is the story of what happened next. But before we start our story, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and hit that notifications bell so you won't miss any of our new incredible stories. To understand the sheer, terrifying odds that this small child was up against, we must first journey to the place where this story unfolded, a small, rural village in the state of Bihar in northern India. This is a land of immense, fertile plains, a landscape defined by agriculture and the rhythm of the seasons. For families like the one in our story, life is a daily struggle, lived in close and often dangerous proximity to the natural world. Their homes are often simple, mud brick structures, perfectly suited for the hot climate, but also offering easy access to the region's abundant wildlife. And in this part of the world, that wildlife includes some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet. This brings us to a hidden and horrifying reality. India has the deadliest snakebite crisis in the world. Every single year, it is estimated that over 58,000 people in India die from venomous snake bites. That is not a historical number. That is the reality of modern life. It is a silent epidemic, a daily public health crisis that plays out in remote villages and farming communities. The reason for this is a perfect storm of factors. India is home to a dense population of both humans and highly venomous snakes, and the expansion of agriculture means that their worlds are constantly colliding. The most dangerous of these snakes are known as the Big Four, the 4 species responsible for the vast majority of deaths. And the most iconic, most feared, and most revered of them all is the Indian Cobra. The Indian Cobra, or Naja Naja, is a masterpiece of evolution and a creature of profound cultural significance. Instantly recognizable by its intimidating hood, which it spreads when threatened, the cobra is a symbol of power, danger, and divinity in Hindu culture, often associated with the powerful god Shiva. But its beauty hides a lethal secret. The cobra's venom is a potent, fast-acting neurotoxin. When it bites, it injects a complex cocktail of toxins that immediately begins to attack the victim's nervous system. The symptoms are terrifying. The venom causes progressive paralysis, starting with drooping eyelids and difficulty swallowing, and quickly moving to a complete paralysis of the respiratory muscles. Without immediate and substantial treatment with antivenom, a full envenomated bite from an adult cobra is a death sentence. The victim remains conscious, but unable to move, as they slowly and terrifyingly suffocate to death. This was the creature that, on that fateful day, slithered into the courtyard where a 2-year-old boy was playing. Our story's protagonist is a toddler from a small village in a district of Bihar that borders the nation of Nepal. On that particular afternoon, he was playing by himself in the dirt courtyard of his family's home, as he had done 100 times before. His parents were inside, attending to their daily chores, the familiar sounds of their child's play a comforting backdrop to their work. Suddenly, that familiar sound was shattered by the child's scream. It was a cry so full of pain and terror that it sent a jolt of pure adrenaline through both parents. They dropped everything and rushed outside, their hearts pounding with a primal fear, and they were met with a sight that is every parent's absolute worst nightmare. Their 2-year-old son was on the ground, crying, and wrapped around his small hand and arm was a young but still highly venomous Indian cobra. Before the parents could even process the horror of what they were seeing and react, the unthinkable happened. The toddler, in a pure instinctual act of pain and defiance, did the only thing his undeveloped mind could think of to fight back against the creature that was hurting him. He brought the snake to his mouth, and he bit it, hard, not once, but twice. The parents watched, frozen in a state of pure adrenaline-fueled terror. They were convinced they were about to watch their child die, succumbing to the cobra's deadly venom. They rushed to their son, but the confrontation was already over. The parents, breaking free from their paralysis of terror, rushed towards their son. The confrontation was over in a matter of seconds. The small cobra, its spine likely severed by the force of the toddler's desperate bite, lay limp and dying on the ground. But the parents barely noticed the snake. Their entire world was focused on their crying child. They frantically examined his hand and saw the two tiny telltale puncture marks, the unmistakable signature of a venomous snakebite. In their minds, a death clock had started ticking. They knew the devastating speed of a cobra's venom. They had only minutes, maybe an hour at most, to get their son to a doctor and the life-saving antivenom he would need. What followed was a frantic, desperate race against time. In this remote, rural village, there are no ambulances to call, no paramedics to arrive in minutes. The father snatched his son into his arms, and the family began a desperate journey to the nearest medical facility, a small, government-run primary health center many kilometers away. They likely ran through the village paths, shouting for help, before finding a neighbor with a motor scooter to rush them down the bumpy, unpaved roads. Every second felt like an eternity. With every whimper from their child, they feared the worst, watching his face for the first telltale signs of the venom taking hold. The drooping eyelids, the slurred speech, the terrifying struggle to breathe. When they finally burst into the small, overwhelmed rural clinic, the doctors on duty immediately understood the gravity of the situation. A 2-year-old child, bitten by a cobra. It was a near-certain death sentence. They prepared the polyvalent antivenom and began a rapid examination of the boy. They cleaned the small wound on his hand, and then, as they monitored his vital signs, they noticed something that was completely baffling. The child was in pain from the physical bite. He was terrified, and he was crying, but the classic, horrifying symptoms of neurotoxic envenomation were not appearing. His eyelids were not drooping. His breathing was not labored. There were no signs of the creeping paralysis that should have already been shutting down his small body. The doctors were perplexed. They kept him under intense observation, ready to administer the antivenom at the first sign of paralysis, but the signs never came. This is where the story shifts from a terrifying tragedy to a medical miracle, and it reveals a fascinating secret about the very nature of venomous snakes. The answer to how this child survived a bite from one of the deadliest snakes in the world lies in a phenomenon known as a dry bite. It is a little-known fact that venomous snakes do not inject venom every single time. They bite. Venom is a complex, metabolically expensive biological compound to produce. Its primary purpose for the snake is not defense. It is to immobilize and begin digesting prey. Therefore, snakes can, and often do, consciously control the amount of venom they inject. A defensive bite, one given out of fear or in a startled reaction, is often a dry bite, where the snake strikes and bites but injects little to no venom at all. It is a warning, a way to say, "Leave me alone," without wasting its precious hunting tool. It is estimated that up to 50% of all defensive bites from cobras can be dry bites. The toddler, in his incredible misfortune of encountering the snake, had also been the beneficiary of an incredible stroke of luck. The young cobra, likely startled by the child, had delivered a defensive dry bite. The boy's own bizarre and aggressive reaction of biting the snake back, while shocking, had no bearing on his survival from the venom. He had already been spared that fate by the snake itself. After several hours of observation at the clinic, the doctors, in a state of professional amazement, declared the boy to be in stable condition and completely out of danger. He was treated for the minor wound on his hand and was eventually allowed to go home with his incredibly relieved parent. The story of the toddler who was bitten by a cobra, killed it by biting it back, and survived the encounter, quickly became a local legend and then a viral international news story. It is a tale so strange and so unbelievable that it sounds like a piece of folklore. But it is a true story, a story that highlights the constant thin line between life and death that is a daily reality for millions of their people in the rural heart of India. It is a testament to the unpredictable nature of the wild, where a situation can shift from peaceful to deadly in a matter of seconds. And finally, it is the story of the incredible, unthinking, and primal will to survive, a defiant instinct so powerful that it could make a 2-year-old child, in the face of a deadly predator, bite back.